Hi, welcome. I am Michelle Vandepas, and I'm here interviewing my good friend Karen Curry Parker today. She's not just a friend, she's a mentor, she's a business partner, she's a soul sister. And the reason I'm interviewing her today is we've had these discussions about mindset and creativity and manifesting, and she has some cool new quantum information about this. So, welcome.
Thank
And
you.
let's dive right in. One of the things
Absolutely.
I really struggle with is the word mindset. It's just the word I struggle with because it makes me think that everything's in my mind.
hmm
And I've spent 30 years learning how to integrate my mind and my heart and my soul. And now all of a sudden, all the gurus out there are telling me to have mindset. So talk about that with me. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, as you probably know, a lot of what I talk about is rooted in a system of personality assessment called human design, which I'm not going to get into the technique and the technology and the science behind human design, but basically what it is, it's a collection of archetypes, and it's a blueprint for how we use energy. And one of the things that I find kind of amusing, I don't know if amusing is the right word, but certainly I find entertaining, is that we focus on this idea of mindset kind of obsessively, whether we're looking at it from the context of goal setting or we're looking at it in the context, if you've got a little bit more of an esoteric background, in setting intentions or prayer, whichever, wherever you lay on the spectrum, it's all kind of the same thing. And then, kind of mixed in with this is this idea that if you have a positive mindset, meaning if you're basically an optimist and you're having positive expectations and thoughts, then poof, everything's going to work out just fine, and your mindset's going to kind of protect you from everything. And there's a bunch of things I want to say about that, because it really puts people in a position of when something doesn't work in your business and you're thinking that your mindset's what's creating your business, then suddenly, first of all, you're not really looking at the lay of the land of what might be going on in your business. Maybe you have a great mindset, but maybe you didn't properly assess what's going on in the marketplace. And this is an opportunity for you to really clarify your communication with your potential clients. And if you're going, oh, it's my mindset sucks, I need to go back and visualize 5,000 people buying my program before midnight tonight, that's not going to change the fact that in the marketplace, maybe you're not listening well enough or correctly to really read what's going on in the marketplace. So sometimes mindset can become, I don't want to call it a bogus excuse because that's kind of harsh, but sometimes it's a way of, if we're only using that as our creative capacity in business, it causes us to be really blind to maybe some of the other elements.
Yeah, I'm hearing a couple different things going on. So I'm hearing a little bit of you talking about mindset like law of attraction. What you
Mm-hmm.
think and believe and conceive then can
Mm-hmm.
come true. And then I'm also hearing you talk about optimism.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to break it down a little bit. Are you saying that it's okay to be pessimistic in business? Are you having to have an optimistic mindset as a given to start?
I think that personally, and from what I do, for the work that I've done with my clients over the last 28 plus years, having a positive set of expectations is a powerful way of creating. And here's why. Let's get into the science of it. When you have back up, your brain can only process 200 to 400 bits of information a minute, usually more like 200 than 400. When you look at the world, what you're seeing is what you've programmed your brain to see, because you can't process everything that's going on out there. And when you have programmed your mind to have a positive expectation, you're programming your mind to look for the evidence for where the trail of success begins. So it's actually scientifically proven that it's a powerful way to program yourself to notice when opportunity shows up, to notice when there's possibilities. So there's that piece. The second thing is, when you have a positive expectation, it actually changes your neurotransmitter production. It changes your biochemical response. It actually secretes a lot, causes your body not only to to change the nature of your biophysiology. It actually increases your creativity, because when we are optimistic and we feel good, our dopamine levels go up. And when our dopamine levels go up, we are less stressed. Our brain literally relaxes. We have a greater experience of epiphany and serendipity and insight, and we're more creative. So it serves you to have a positive mindset. But I think what I'm really speaking to is that balance between having a positive expectation and also not buying into the idea that that's the only thing that's going to create your business. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people that have, and I mean this from a loving and gentle place, people who have the deepest desire to be of service in the world, who don't have a clear message or a clear platform for what it is that they're selling. They don't have a good bead on who is my client. They maybe haven't done the research. They're so in love with what they're selling and they're so passionate about it that they haven't figured out, well, maybe where is the need in the marketplace. You have to have a good mindset, but you also have to be, you have to be on the earthly plane doing the work. And there's a balance between those two. And I have seen it go both ways. I've certainly seen people who have worked really hard and done the work, who have a crappy mindset and things blow up in their face constantly and they never see possibilities. And I've had people that have had such a great mindset and it's just been la 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 la, so amazing that, nothing ever meets their expectations. And then they sort of feel like, oh, there's some kind of aberrant light worker freak or some kind of person that is a dreamer, unrealistic, and nothing will ever come true for them anyway, so they quit. So there's kind of this midpoint between those two places that you have to strike that balance.
So I love how you say that when you have a positive mindset, you can see the opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a place in the market that where some people see problems, entrepreneurs can get in there and see them as opportunities. So I think that's a really good distinction for mindset. Mm-hmm. The other piece I want to play off of for a minute before we dive down the creativity genre here is when you talk about having that mindset, underneath that, I am thinking to myself, there's a piece in there that's gratitude. And
totally.
When you can be grateful for what you have, that's part of the mindset about being optimistic, I think, right? Is having some gratitude, but that comes from a place of heart.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm actually going to talk about, for just a second, the science of gratitude, because again, gratitude, just like I talked about how when you have a positive expectation, it programs the brain. I like to call gratitude just noticing with heart, right? Mm-hmm. You're just noticing with heart. And again, that noticing creates results. Taking it back to the quantum physics realm, the big dilemma that quantum physicists have had since the inception of their understanding of how quantum particles behave is this. When you observe a quantum particle, its behavior changes to meet your expectations. So everybody who's observing quantum particles is seeing something different, which means the nature of reality and truth, is really pretty independent. What I perceive and what you perceive and what the UPS man who just drove by perceives, it's all going to be different. Even if we're all looking at the same chair in an office, our perception of it is different. When you are consciously using gratitude as your creative energy, you're consciously observing basically a set of quantum phenomenon or a set of quantum particles. And your observation is influencing not only your perception of it, but your experience of it. And if you are noticing with heart, you are actually forming a quantum reality around what you're noticing. So gratitude is actually an incredibly creative energy. And it's, again, one of those energies that we kind of poo-poo because we think, oh, that's Pollyanna. That's those la, la, la happy people. It's actually a really powerful way to harness the power of the quantum field and to control the outcome of your expectations and your creative force.
All right. I want to stick on mindset for one more minute because I do run into clients, and I've struggled with this as well, where you really want a positive mindset, but things just keep going wrong. And last year seemed to be a good indication for everybody I know. It was a pretty sucky year.
Mm.
Um, and we can chalk that up to whatever. And it's hard to stay in that positive mindset all the time. So, collectively, does that affect how individually we operate in our businesses and our lives?
I I think absolutely, and this was sort of the second point that I got distracted on the quantum physics part that I was going to get to is when we look at the blueprint for how the human energy field works, 7/8 of us are going to, by design, be always under the influence of somebody else's mindset. Most of us are mind readers, literally. And most of us have minds that are designed for being able to see a 360-degree view around a concept or an idea. That's a gift, not a curse. But it can feel like a curse if you don't understand that, oh, hey, my mindset is vulnerable. Because when I walk into a restaurant, let's say, or I click open my CNN news page, if you have the kind of energy design or energy blueprint that has an open mind, literally, when you walk into that restaurant, it's going to be easy for you to suddenly get overwhelmed or have your own mindset hijacked by somebody else's. So yeah, the collective mindset influences us tremendously. But the brain, which is part of the mind, it's not all of the mind. In fact, we don't know really where the mind is. But the brain, which does contain elements for being able to hold mindset, is a very interesting organ. And it's an organ that is literally designed for ease. When you think about walking, when you are walking around on this planet, you are not going, okay, right, left, right, left. Over the time when you were learning how to walk, your brain built a series of highways called neural pathways that make it easy for you to now walk without a whole lot of conscious awareness. You can entrain your brain and your mind to be able to hold on to a mindset. Not all the time. You're going to still have crappy days. You're going to have days when you don't want to have a good mindset. And honestly, if we're really honest, sometimes we have days where we kind of enjoy having a crappy mindset. Sometimes it's fun to just go, screw it. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to binge watch Netflix. I'm going to get a glass of wine and eat some of that Chicago
That's
mixed
not
caramel.
crappy mindset. You add the chocolate in there. That's a perfect. Yeah.
And I think the thing is, we have to understand that mindset. When we talk about mindset, the way I always teach it is it's a baseline frequency. And if you understand frequencies operate in waves, right? And you're really going to always have day-to-day, minute-by-minute variations on any kind of experience. Because you know what? If you don't, you're dead. That means you're not vibrating at all. Okay, that's a flat line on the EKG. If you're alive, you're vibrating. And because you're vibrating, there's variation and oscillations in your experience. What's important is the baseline, which means, yeah, you're going to have bad days. You might even have literally a bad year. Okay, you might even have a bad life cycle. But it doesn't mean that you're screwed. It doesn't mean you're doomed to fail. It doesn't mean now all of a sudden you're going to, I've heard people really run some trips on themselves about, oh, I created cancer, or I created, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I think there's too much mystery in the world to lock it up into some little formula that says my thoughts create my reality, therefore I did this. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. And I will say the baseline frequency, the place where you stay most often, that place where you return to is most important. And if you tend to the baseline, which unfortunately for some of us does mean you do have to have, I'm going to say habits. Don't fall into the trap that says habits means you have to do the same thing every day at the same time. And if you don't have willpower and then you suck, because we do that to ourselves too. I'm saying you have to have a median way, a consistent way, in whatever way is right for you, and we're all different, of getting back to that baseline and tending to that baseline and maintaining that baseline. And some of those things that we do to maintain the baseline is take a break, go take a weekend off and go to a spa, or if you can't go to a spa, go lay in your freaking hammock and read a romance novel, or go for a walk, or do something where you engage in beauty and self-care and restoration, and cultivate faith, whether it's through a religious practice or your own spiritual journey, do the things that you need to do to bring you back to baseline. I have a dog named Happy, and he's my soul puppy. No matter what happens in the world, I have Happy, and Happy helps me get back to my baseline. And I know that's ridiculous, but it's one of the reasons why I work at home, because I can't take Happy to a co-working space, or I can't take him to a coffee shop necessarily. Some of them I can right now this time of year, but Happy is my baseline frequency restoration system. Whatever it is for you. I mean, I've done transcendental meditation for 34 years, every morning, every evening. That's how I do my baseline. Some people are going to do it differently. Some people are going to take 3 months off. Some of you, might get a good night's sleep. Some of you might be, on a bike, riding your bike somewhere. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's whatever works for you and you have that as part of your consistent practice.
All right, so I want to summarize this for people, and then we're going to spend a few minutes and go into the second part.
Okay.
I want to summarize this first. So mindset's important. It's not the only piece of creating a successful business, a successful lifestyle, but it's important. Optimism is part of that. Being grateful is part of that. And if you don't feel as though you're in that place, you have to find a practice to help you get there, and then continually come back to this practice. I think that's a good summary. So for people who are feeling like I'm not grateful right now, I have a lousy attitude, I'm not feeling optimistic, go find yourself a practice, take some downtime. I like to call it energetic space. And that will help you get back into a positive mindset for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So that segues into our second part. The second part is, I strongly believe, and I think you do as well, that creativity is imperative to how we keep a good mindset, how we keep a good optimistic viewpoint, and how we keep our heart engaged. So talk now about the creative piece of manifesting your mindset and your business and all of that. Big subject.
The creative piece. Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you what I tell most of my clients, especially if they're like escaping the cubicle. If they've got this idea that I'm going to get out of my job and I'm going to start my own business on the side, which is where a lot of people are. Or if you've had a business for a while and you're kind of in a rut and you're ready to sort of change the nature of it. I think you have to do what I'll call a pre-launch sequence. And that pre-launch sequence means you have to, first of all, and this, I promise I'll tie this back to creativity. You have to, first of all, be clear about why you're going into business. Because if you're going into business because you hate your job and you're not making enough money and you want to be free, and you think that, if I go do this business, I'll be free, I'll make a ton of money, and then I can go do what I really want to do. I can almost guarantee you probably 99% of the people who have that drive or that motivation to go into business for those reasons, you're not going to do it. You're not going to succeed at it. And part of why you're not going to succeed at it is because you're actually cutting yourself off from your true creative capacity when you start to limit the parameters about the steps necessary that have to happen for you to eventually get to this creative end goal. The thing I always tell people is, before you leap, be sure you're clear about what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. And don't take the bypass route because you don't have the belief system in place that says I can go for what I really want, and you're compromising and settling. The second thing is, really look at your underlying motivations. Are you going into business to prove something? And you'll be surprised how many people do. You think about the energies that drive us when we're proving something and how closely those energies are tied to the energy of value. We oftentimes go into business to try to prove our value. If you're going into business because you're burned out and you think, this will be a way for me to get out of doing this work, that's going to totally affect the nature of your creative power, and it's going to shut down your creativity. In fact, I will tell you, if you are burned out, and this is honestly, I think this is the number one reason why small businesses fail, and it has nothing to do with what the Small Business Association says. I think the number one reason why most businesses fail is because people go into business because they're tired and they're burned out, and they think that going into business for yourself is going to be like a piece of cake. And I will tell you that, if you're going to be successful in business, you will have to train yourself to take time off. You will have to train yourself. I mean, I think this has been all the entrepreneurs I know. They eventually go through a cycle in their business where they have to go, okay, wait, it's not okay to go to bed with the laptop and keep it under my bed and check customer service emails in the middle of the night, or check my stats. How much did I sell while I was sleeping, right? We're a crazy kind of a bunch of people in that respect. I think, some entrepreneurs, not everyone, but some of us who are,
online entrepreneurs. I think that really
Yeah.
does speak to online entrepreneurs.
Yes, I think that's true. I think if you have a brick and mortar business, you're hopefully not going down and checking your sales records in the middle of the night.
Right.
And also I think some people are, yes.
And, tire stores and all those.
Oh, totally.
Slightly different way to approach your business.
Absolutely. But I think there is, I think back to my parents when my parents went into business for themselves in their mid 40s. My dad got laid off, and somewhere around that time they decided to go into construction supply. I mean, it was hard objects they were selling,
Right.
nails and physical products, right?
Right.
And they officed out of the house in the beginning, right? And they literally worked all day and all night. This was the time when they had telex machines, right? And I would go to bed. I was a teenager. I would go to bed at night and I could hear the telex machine going off all night long because their clients were in Africa and all around the world. And so, that business was running, and they were getting up and checking telexes in the middle of the night. So it's a little bit different, but there's that fear around, is my business going to make it? I got to give everything to it. So bottom line on that whole conversation is, if you're burned out, heal your burnout first. I'm not saying don't go into business for yourself, but go into business when your energy level is where you need it to be. Because if you're exhausted and depleted, and then on top of that, you're trying to prove that you can do it, and you've got all these unconscious drivers, such as, your fear, or maybe, you're struggling to prove your lovability in the world, or whatever your unconscious drivers might be. When you've got that going on as sort of your subconscious landscape on the inner plane, first of all, it takes a lot of energy to try to maintain stability with that kind of an unconscious landscape. And that's also going to add to the burnout piece, but it also shuts down your creativity, because you're going into business from a place of being stressed and under pressure and anxious from the start. And again, what research shows us over and over again is that being under stress, being in a low-grade fight or flight response all the time, literally cuts off your creative energy. And it makes sense, right? If you're running from the bear in your front yard, you don't want to be distracted from anything else, right? You want to only have one thought and one thought only, right? And that is run, and run to wherever the bear isn't. And your body is designed to shut down all those other creative ideas, all that other creative expansion, because you're like focused on survival. And you can't create business from that place very effectively. You can try. You might have a modicum of success to kind of get you started, but that real expansive creative possibility that's available to you, it doesn't happen when we're out of balance with those other pieces.
All right, so we're just about out of time here, Karen. And so again, I want to sort of summarize for the people listening what I got out of this, because I think this is really important to help really give nuggets of takeaways for people. And what I'm hearing is that if you go into business, or if you're going through a cycle in your business where you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, pressure, getting up in the middle of the night to check your stats, and so you're not getting enough sleep, you're undervaluing yourself, or just not showing up as a full human being, and valuing yourself for who you are. All of these things act as creativity suppressor.
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's a good way. Yeah.
And you can't be an entrepreneur or be in business if you don't have that creative fire. And
Yes.
so what I think the segue back to the beginning would be is that in order to keep that creativity alive in you, you've got to go back to your baseline. You've got to go back to what is it that brings your optimism back up, your gratitude back up, your hope back up. Find your practice. Find a way to give yourself the space, whether it's meditation or walking or painting or whatever it is, because that's the basis for business, both the mindset and the creative fire that will fuel your business.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And you have something to add to those nuggets for takeaways?
I think the only other piece that I would add is that I think that in our logical, sort of right-brained conditioning, and I think we're very much trained that way. We're trained to be in formulas. That in our training, many of us have been led to believe that creativity or even higher order archetypes like beauty or rest or truth, that kind of stuff is frilly stuff that comes on the side after we've done the formula of work hard, make money. And I will tell you that, I've just seen it over and over again. A truly successful business person knows how to tap into that creative flow and understands that the success of their business comes from a holistic integration of that aspect in their life, not just in their business, but in their life. And that if they cut that out, then they burn out and they get stuck. And they get stuck and they can't see the solutions because they're not engaging the full nature of their true creative essence. And you have to practice that and you have to bring it in. Otherwise, it's not going to be fun and it's not going to work.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So beautiful. So for everyone watching, Karen and I are going to be discussing these things in more detail. And in fact, they are a whole section of our workbook for the Matrix Manifesto, Matrix Maker Manifesto. Oh, and I was so excited. I lost my earpiece. I'm so excited.
We are very excited.
So you will be finding out more about that and also some courses that support this whole discussion. But so glad to have you with us. Hit reply to the email or go ahead and comment if you have some comments on this. And we look forward to seeing you inside the Matrix.
We are very excited to see you and to connect you with your tribe, where you belong, people who are, I think, on the leading edge of bringing in a completely new way of being in business in the world. So we're excited to have you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Michelle.